We called to say Michelle and I couldn't be prouder to endorse you and to do everything we can to get you through this election and into the Oval Office.
Wow. How about that? Who saw that coming? Obama endorses Kamala. That's amazing. And it's only the beginning. Well, welcome to Friday. Friday, Louie to you. It is the Chris Plant Show. Mike Opelka sitting in for my vacationing friend, Chris Plant. As always, honored and happy to be here on this consequential day in American history. Yesterday was pretty crazy, too, wasn't it? Yeah, yesterday we had more protests in the Capitol because Benjamin Netanyahu is still alive. And the anti-Semites were not happy that he was invited to the White House to meet with the president and the practicing president. Yes, that happened. And we'll talk about it because, you know, what's interesting. We didn't hear from the real president. We heard from the practicing president yesterday after the meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu, our most important friend in the Middle East. That's amazing, isn't it? Wow. So many things to get to today. And, of course, you're welcome to join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-9625. So the Obamas, this morning, we get the word. It was 5 o'clock this morning. This suddenly popped up on Twitter X. Suddenly, and without warning or anticipation, with all appropriate sarcasm involved. Suddenly, without warning, Barack Obama posts a video of he and Michelle Obama calling Kamala Harris to congratulate her. And isn't that amazing? Isn't that astounding? Isn't that just the biggest shock of your life that you've never had? Did you hear the entire thing? Did you catch it? Because the entire thing is kind of interesting. It's under a minute long. It's a miracle that it was edited to be under a minute long, 55 seconds, in fact. The strangest thing about it is we knew this was going to happen today on a Friday. We knew it. And there was a video crew following Kamala Harris around at the backstage of some event. I suspect this may have been in Milwaukee earlier this week, or when she did a brief campaign event while Netanyahu was speaking. Because the former president and puppet master Barack Obama said on his Twitter X account earlier this week, wait, what? This didn't just happen? Earlier this week, Michelle and I called our friend, sure she's your friend, Kamala Harris. Have you invited her to go paddleboarding? That's how I know she's your friend, right? Called our friend Kamala Harris. We told her we think she'll make a fantastic president of the United States, and she has our full support. At this critical moment for our country, we're going to do everything we can do to make sure she wins in November. We hope you'll join us. Now, that posted at 5:01 a.m., just in time to get it downloaded and posted on every news outlet for their morning shows. What a coinky-dink. If you don't think that Hollywood is behind this, and in those 4 hours since this popped, there have been 25 million views, and it's going to go higher. It's almost as popular as the least popular Tucker Carlson podcast. And those can go on for an hour and a half. This is just amazing. And if you haven't heard it, if you haven't seen it, you should hear the entire thing.
Kamala.
Hello. Hi. Hey there. Oh, hi. You're both together.
Oh, I have to stop it right there. Why is she surprised that they're both together? Is that a shock? She usually gets one but not the other? This is so natural. She's got someone carrying a camera leading her through the hallways behind a convention center where she's getting ready to appear. I guess we could match the outfit to whatever event she was attending. And maybe we'll do that a little bit later. But here she is. I'll let this continue. This is the conversation. And I'm using air quotes with my fingers. This is the conversation with Barack and Michelle and Kamala.
Oh, it's good to hear you both.
I can't have this phone call without saying to my girl Kamala, I am proud of you. This is going to be historic.
We called to say Michelle and I couldn't be prouder to endorse you and to do everything we can to get you through this election and into the Oval Office.
Now, something weird about this is I'm watching this video. The audio is very clear, but they have captions underneath, so we are able to read what is being said. Do you not think Obama speaks clearly enough for us? This is strange. And there are titles also between the cuts of sections, and God knows how long this call went on. I'd love to see the raw video to see if they had to redo any of it.
Oh my goodness. Michelle, Barack, this means so much to me. I am looking forward to doing this with the two of you, Doug and I both, and getting out there, being on the road. But most of all, I just want to tell you the words you have spoken and the friendship that you have given over all these years mean more than I can express. So thank you both. It means so much. And we're going to have some fun with this too, aren't we?
Yeah, we're going to have some fun with it as well. Harris for president is the final screen that's there. 55-second video posted this morning at essentially 5 a.m. East Coast time. Now has more than 25 million views. 25 million views and growing. This was scripted. This was planned. This was laid out before Joe Biden handed his forced signed resignation from the campaign on Sunday. This was all laid out. They scripted it. They storyboarded it. First, we're going to have Joe say that he can't run and not give us a reason. And then we'll go through the week and we'll get an endorsement from Pelosi and we'll get an endorsement from Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. And Barack will say it's coming, but not yet. And then on Friday, when Barack can have the spotlight all to himself, he will release the video that was recorded earlier in the week. By his own admission, by his own statement earlier this week, Michelle and I called our friend Kamala Harris. We told her we think she'll make a fantastic president of the United States. And she has our full support. Just amazing. It is being played out, the palace coup. She still has not gotten one vote from a voter. There was no primary. There was absolutely nothing that gave the American people, the Democrat voters who supported Joe Biden in numbers of 14 million people voted to get Joe Biden the nomination. Not one of them has been allowed to place a vote for Kamala Harris. Not one. This was a selection, not an election. This was the least democratic thing Democrats have done in my lifetime. And growing up in Chicago, I saw a lot of not democratic things being done in elections in my lifetime. Just absolutely stunning and amazing. I'm sure this is going to get a lot of play today, and I'm sure this is going to make a lot of people feel happy now that Barack and Michelle have apparently come to some kind of an agreement with Kamala as to how she's going to behave during the campaign, because I still believe this is Obama's campaign. I still believe that whoever the Democrats select has to pledge fealty to Barack Obama and whatever his mission is. It's going to continue. Now, yesterday I mentioned that Kamala Harris is pretending to be president. She is. She's playing president, and the Democrats are allowing it to happen. The Democrats are giving her the opportunity to pretend to be president without actually having the title. Joe is still there. Joe is still wandering around the White House. Joe still has the Oval Office all to himself. Although there was a meeting in the Oval Office yesterday between Kamala Harris and Benjamin Netanyahu. And there are photos and there are statements, but there's no statement, at least no official post-meeting statement from Joe Biden over his meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu. Is there? Is there one? I didn't see one. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know there was a little bit of, you know what they do when they come out to the White House and they sit on either side or they stand on either side of the fireplace in the Oval Office and there's an array of flags and the two leaders will shake hands and then face the press and they'll take pictures and then the press shouts them down to try and get messages, and then the press team of the White House yells back at the press corps and says, you got to go, we got to go, get everybody out, everybody, we're going to have a meeting now. And nothing gets done. And then afterwards, sometimes we get a press event where we'd get questions. We didn't have that yesterday. We did have Kamala Harris, and I'll play it for you in a little bit. We did have Kamala Harris making a statement yesterday. And the interesting thing of that statement from Kamala Harris about her meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu, there seems to be a little bit of a disagreement from Israel and from the Prime Minister's office as to the, what's the correct non-word to describe it? Seriosity. There was no serious statement from Kamala Harris or no truth to the statement that she was making. She's telling us a fib, but, I guess that shouldn't really surprise anybody. We'll get into that. A couple other things happening today. There are some big news out of the Olympics where I'm hoping and praying for safe Olympics, and I'm hoping that the American team will shine. I know that we have a lot of great men and women who have spent years and years and years training to represent our country on the world stage. Paris this morning announced that there was a coordinated attack on rail lines, transit lines into Paris from the suburbs. Fires set along the tracks that have stopped many of the routes into the city. And there have been statements by Hamas that have said these Olympics will be disrupted. The streets of Paris will run with blood. I know that's a little disturbing. So I'm worried about our athletes over there, of course. And I'm sure that we have lent some of our security and intelligence to the Olympics team. And I'm hoping and praying for a safe Olympics. I'm also hoping and praying for dominant American performances in the Olympics. We also have reports, credible reports, that the Seine River, that Paris sits along the Seine River, then some of the Olympic activities are to take place in the river, that some of the local people who don't want the Olympics there are fouling the river with their own, well, let's just say biological waste. Think of that scene in Caddyshack. There might be a couple of baby Ruths floating in the Seine River that aren't exactly baby Ruths. They're trying to foul the river to the point where they can't hold the event. Aren't they just creative little terrorists? So amazing. We also have an interesting comment from former President Trump about what should be done to the people who burn the flag, the people who were protesting in D.C., who took American flags down and replaced them with Palestinian flags and then took the American flags and lit them on fire and stomped on them. What should be done to those people? I think you might be surprised to learn that Joe Biden at one time agreed with Donald Trump. And the left is furious with Donald Trump for what he said. But so far, there's bupkis being said about Joe Biden and his statement. And I wonder if he believes it today. We'll get into that. A lot of stories to get to. So many stories, updates on some of the stories we began to cover yesterday. It is going to be an interesting Friday. And as I said, you're always welcome to be a part of it. 888-630-9625. It is Mike Opelka in for Chris Plant on The Chris Plant Show.
You're listening to The Chris Plant Show.
It is The Chris Plant Show on a Friday. Friday, Louie to you. Mike Opelka in for my friend Chris Plant as he is on vacation. and trying to cover everything. Wow, what a busy day yesterday with two, not one, but two meetings with Benjamin Netanyahu in the White House yesterday. And not a lot of video coverage because there was no formal statement from the president afterwards. The practicing president gave us a statement, and we'll share that with you. But there was a little bit of a statement from the two as they were doing the handshake in front of the cameras, you know, the obligatory handshake, photo op in front of cameras. And then they talk for just a couple of minutes, and then we're told, okay, we're going to have a meeting now, so you don't have to concern yourself with it. Here's the actual audio from, it's not broadcast quality, but you can hear what's going on.
Well, welcome back, Mr. Prime Minister. We got a lot to talk about. I think we should get to it, but the floor is yours.
Before Netanyahu speaks, as Biden was sitting down, they were both sitting in those large armed chairs in front of the fireplace. Biden went, "Whoa, welcome back." He dropped into the chair for the last 6 or 8 inches. He just fell into it. That's why that sound was there. I don't know. He didn't lower himself and sit down. It's just, you cannot hear it right here. He's falling into the chair.
Well, welcome back, Mr. Prime Minister. We got a lot to talk about. I think we should get to it, but the floor is yours.
Mr. President, we've known each other for 40 years, and you've known every Israeli Prime Minister for 50 years, from Golda Meir. So from a proud Jewish Zionist to a proud Irish-American Zionist, I want to thank you for 50 years of public service and 50 years of support for the State of Israel. And I look forward to discussing with you today and working with you in the months ahead on the great issues before us.
I look forward to it as well. By the way, that first meeting with Prime Minister Golda Meir, and she had an assistant sitting next to me, a guy named Rabin. That's how far back it goes. I was only 12 then. Anyway, thank you all for being here.
And then, of course, the press are shouted out of the room, and the meeting was held. But there was no statement from the President of the United States after the meeting. Not a statement. But then a couple hours later, Kamala Harris had a sit-down with Benjamin Netanyahu. And similar press setup. And then she made a statement. There was presidential practice being held yesterday from 4 to 5 p.m., and we'll give you the update on it and talk about your opinions on it as well. Just amazing. We're living in amazing times. Scripted amazing times. Opelka in for Plant on The Chris Plant Show.
This is The Chris Plant Show.
It is 9:34 on The Chris Plant Show, or 34 minutes after the hour, depending on where you are. Mike Opelka in for my friend Chris Plant. That's an old radio time check habit I have to break. But I'm here. Chris is on holiday. I'll be here through his holiday, God willing, and trying to get to everything and everyone because so many of you are reaching out already today at 888-630-9625. Let's do a couple of phone calls before I get back to what I want to say about Kamala Harris pretending to be president. Tom in Springfield, Virginia. Hey, Tom, welcome to the Chris Plant Show.
Good morning. How you doing, Michael?
Good, sir. What's up?
There's one thing I don't think a lot of people thought about, but like you were saying, Barack Obama and Michelle gave their blessing last night. What about them bringing Barack back as the VP?
I don't think that's allowed. I think he'd be precluded from running, even though he's not running for president. I think it would. I don't think he's able to do it. But I also think there would be a major blowback from people in the middle, and I think that's where this election is going to be won. Every devoted Democrat, every base Democrat is locked in every devoted Republican is locked in. There are a number of independents who, since the assassination attempt on Donald Trump, have awakened to the reality in this country that, and since the debate, that Joe Biden wasn't capable. And then they saw Kamala be elevated, anointed, appointed to the role of candidate, presumptive nominee. And a lot of them said, oh, my goodness, we don't have to deal with the brain dead guy. And they drifted back. And now they're learning about her history as an extreme liberal. And we're starting to see some balance in the polls. I've got some new polling data out today that we should talk about. But I don't think he's allowed to do it. And I also think the people would rise up and say, hold on a second. You had 2 terms, and many of us believe that you were running this last term from your White House or from your D.C. mansion, and we're not buying it. So I don't think that would carry. The people that talk about saving democracy, doing that, I think they'd be exposed. Interesting question, and I'm happy to see that we're putting the Michelle Obama rumors to bed, because that's not happening. And she won't be the Veep either. But thank you, Tom. Appreciate it. Another one of the regulars here, Michael in Gainesville. Hello, Michael. Welcome to the program.
Hey, good morning, Michael Opelka. Happy Friday.
Yeah, Friday-lujah to you. We're glad you're here.
Thanks for taking my call. The prohibition on the 3rd term is about being elected to a 3rd term, so I'm not sure he's prohibited, but I do agree with you. Politically, it would be a negative. We really have to have a discussion about whether the first 14th Amendment citizen to ever hold the VP office, Kamala Harris, is the first 14th Amendment citizen, is actually someone that has naturality as a citizen here. I understand she was born in California, but that's nativity. That's not naturality. Naturality comes from the blood of your parents who are citizens. So we really should have this discussion. The Wong Kim Ark ruling by Supreme Court did not say that Wong Kim Ark was a natural-born citizen, just said he was a citizen at birth. And people have taken that to believe that is the same thing as a natural-born citizen. They are not the same thing. They're different wording for a reason. A native-born citizen may not be a natural citizen. So that's my argument. I don't know if I can expound on that. I just think we all should start to think about the fact that nobody ever mentions that Kamala is a 14th Amendment citizen and the first one to ever be in the VP office, because it's supposed to be illegal. It's supposed to be unconstitutional.
Well, this could go into one of those university type halls of the university arguments about what the meaning is. And I think most people of the 330 million Americans out there, God knows how many of them are eligible to vote at this time, believe that if you are born on American soil, you are eligible to be president. If there is an argument to be made at this point, the woman has served more than 3.5 years as vice president. If there were an argument to be made, you think it would have been made to disqualify her. And if that's the only way you prevent her from being on a ballot, I think a great number of people are going to see that as a petty and weak argument to keep her out of office. And I've said this before. I think it is really important for us to argue policies and not trivialities. People are saying, well, we should talk about Kamala Harris and how many people she dated. And no, I don't care. Donald Trump had a checkered past himself. Let's talk about policies and results. And if you line up policies and results, there's no argument. If you line up the policies that are the ones you're predicting you're going to enact, there's no argument. It is freedom. It is America. It is constitutionality versus leftism and communism. And I think that's where we need to put this, because if you start saying, no, she can't be president because she's not a natural versus natural-born citizen, you're going to be seen as trivial. She's had the office for 3.5 years. She would have been disqualified before if somebody really thought she was a threat to the presidency. I think this throws us back to the birtherism argument, which was a losing argument on any day. The fringes of both sides will get engaged by this, but I don't think the majority of voters will be engaged by it. But it's interesting, Michael, and I think it's not going to lead us to a forward argument or a positive solution to anything. The problem is policies. Whose policies should be presented and favored by the voters? And that's where I think the argument has to be. But thank you for being there. Appreciate it. I don't want to get dragged into the birther thing again. And that's kind of where this goes. You know, Ted Cruz had to deal with that too, as did John McCain, who was born on a base somewhere outside of the United States. It's a really interesting argument, but again, I think it gets to academia and those political science meetings that will go on forever and ever and ever. She's had the gig for 3.5 years. She's the presumptive nominee. Let's deal with it on that basis. Will be seen as petty. Truly, truly, truly. I want to get into a couple things about Kamala Harris yesterday, because she's not only had this endorsement by Barack Obama now, she's had the opportunity to meet with a world leader, our greatest ally in the Middle East, Benjamin Netanyahu. And yesterday, after she spoke to the teachers union in Houston, she got back on Air Force Two and flew to D.C. to have a meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu. And she pretended to be the president. And that was her privilege, I guess. But it is astounding to me that she did not have a presentation with Joe Biden, with the president. You have the president and the vice president both have meetings with the president, the prime minister of Israel. And we didn't have the two of them together. They did this intentionally to give her street cred, as they say. Here's a little bit of Kamala pretending to be president yesterday.
As I just told Prime Minister Netanyahu, it is time to get this deal done. So to everyone who has been calling for a ceasefire, and to everyone who yearns for peace, I see you and I hear you. Let's get the deal done so we can get a ceasefire to end the war.
Now, we're hearing that that's not exactly the tone of the meeting in the mind of Benjamin Netanyahu, that she didn't play hardball in the meeting, that it was a very different tone. But Kamala Harris is going to try and be all things to all people because she's a Democrat and a politician. And that's what they do. They pander. And so she's going to pander to the press on this meeting. She didn't show up to meet with Benjamin Netanyahu the day he spoke to a joint session of Congress. She was busy collecting checks on a campaign trail. So now she shows up to have the one-on-one meeting. And then she wanted us to know just how much of a friend of Israel she is, or has been. Has she?
I have had an unwavering commitment to the existence of the State of Israel, to its security, and to the people of Israel. I've said it many times, but it bears repeating. Israel has a right to defend itself, and how it does so matters. Let's get the deal done so we can get a ceasefire to end the war. Let's bring the hostages home.
So she's been a friend of Israel, planting trees since she was a child? This is the first time I've heard that mentioned. Seriously, the first time I've heard that mentioned. I wonder if there's any history on that. You know, Joe Biden claimed to be going to synagogues and to black churches in Wilmington, Delaware, after he'd go to the Catholic Church. And there's no evidence of that. I wonder if there's any evidence of Kamala Harris planting or raising money to plant trees for Israel. And why were we planting trees for Israel? Seems like a strange charitable activity. Not sure. Not sure about that one. And I'm not sure how far that's going to go. And I also wonder, and now we're going to hear within 2 weeks, Kamala said we're going to hear within 2 weeks, that she's going to make her vice presidential nomination. She's going to choose a running mate. A lot of questions about who she's going to choose. We already dismissed the Barack Obama one. I think that is not within the realm of possibility or even probability. but we'll see what happens. The other issue is the deadline now is Saturday at 6 p.m. There's a Saturday 6 p.m. deadline, East Coast time, for any Democrat who wants to challenge Kamala Harris for the nomination. They're not having a primary. They're not having snap primaries or blitz primaries, whatever you want to call it. They are having this is the Democrats made up the rules since they get to do that. They get to just take 14 million votes and push them into the Potomac River and say, sorry, we don't need these. We know better than you, the people. Even though we constantly say we, the people, is the thing, but it's not the thing to them. You know the thing. So at 6 p.m. Saturday, you will be allowed to challenge Kamala Harris, but you have to have 300 committed delegates. Now, this came out yesterday. This announcement of the 6 p.m. Saturday deadline came out yesterday, and the Washington Post was reporting that Kamala Harris already had over 3,000 delegates, so there were only about 600 delegates remaining. But in order to challenge her, you had to have 300 delegates sign a letter saying that they would be supporting you. So when we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, we see that Kamala Harris is the picture of the DEI she preaches, especially that equity. When she says some people need a little bit more or a little bit of help, the Democrats gave her 5 full days of a head start on anyone else who was hoping to seek the nomination. 5 full days. They had the opportunity, Kamala Harris and her team, to go out and wrangle 3,000 delegates out of the, I think it's 3,900 or so that are available. And there are reportedly about 600 and change that haven't committed to her, according to yesterday's Washington Post. So they really didn't make it a process where anyone like maybe Joe Manchin or even Bernie Sanders or Gretchen Whitmer or any number of Democrats who have credibly attempted to say they were candidates could have the opportunity. The system is completely rigged. Completely rigged. And I wonder when the anger is going to congeal and when the Democrats are going to get mad. I'm not the only one who's thinking this way either, I guess. Angie is in Silver Spring, Maryland. Angie, you're wondering the same thing, aren't you? Hello, Angie. Is she gone?
Hi. Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thanks for being here. Welcome to the Chris Plant Show. You're wondering when the Democrats are going to get mad about this too?
Yeah, since 2008, they have had zero say on who their elected representative was going to be. They asked Hillary to step down so that Obama would win, and they promised her the 2016 election, which was why basically nobody ran against her in the primaries. And when she lost, they basically promised it to Biden. They really wanted Kamala to win, but she couldn't. Nobody wanted her even in the primaries. So they made her the vice president, knowing full well that Biden would not be able to fulfill his term, and if he could, would not be able to run again, putting her in the position to become president, even though no Democrat wanted her back then, but now she is. No, they have never had a single choice on who they wanted to run and represent them. And as a Democrat, if I was a Democrat, I'd be furious. And yet they just stand back and they let the Democrat Party decide who's best representative of them. It's absolutely disgusting. If it happened in the Republican Party, we would be revolting. But the Democrats are like, no, it's okay, it's fine. Let them do it.
It is amazing to me, and I think it's incumbent upon all of us to talk to our friends who are Democrats, and we all have them. We all have them, and say, I can't believe you're letting this happen. You, the people who demand democracy be defended, are allowing it to be absolutely trampled upon. Great angle, Angie. Thank you for being there. I'm up against the clock. Got to take a break. It is Mike Opelka in for Chris Plant on the Chris Plant Show.
All men and women created by gold. You know the thing. You know how we talk about it. Are we the people?
There's only one Chris Plant. The Chris Plant Show.
It is the Chris Plant Show. Mike Opelka sitting in for my friend Chris Plant. And I was just reading over a little news story that shows that Tucker Carlson, our friend Tucker Carlson, has just become the biggest podcast in the world. He's now passed Joe Rogan. And I think that is a remarkable thing and good for him. Congratulations to Tucker Carlson. In a very short period of time, Tucker Carlson has become the biggest podcast in the world. As I said, passing by what appeared to be the toughest guy to beat, and that was Joe Rogan. And I know Tucker works very hard. A lot of people don't like him. A lot of people love him. And that's part of that polarizing effect. You get people who listen to you because they don't like you. They get people that listen to you because they love you. But one of the most amazing things happened about a year ago when Tucker Carlson got thrown out of Fox News, and AOC decided she wanted to tell everybody how happy she was about that. And I have to share it with you because the end of this makes me happy.
Tucker Carlson is out at Fox News. Couldn't have happened to a better guy. What I will say, though, is while I'm very glad that the person that was arguably responsible for some of the largest, driving some of the most amounts of death threats and violent threats, not just to my office, but to plenty of people across the country, I also kind of feel like I'm like waiting for the cutscene at the end of a Marvel movie after all the credits have rolled. And then you see like the villain's like hand reemerge out to grip over like the end of a building or something. But deplatforming works, and it is important. And there you go. Good things can happen.
Yeah, good things can happen. Smartest person they have in the bench team of the Democrat Party. A little bit of schadenfreude. Deplatforming works. Tucker Carlson's printing money and getting more and more people listening to him every single day. Oh, it's wonderful when things like this happen. Mike Opelka in for Chris Plant on the Chris Plant Show. Let's go.